Welcome, everyone. This is the Autodesk Media Entertainment Community Stream. I'm Hagen, and I work at Autodesk, obviously, with a focus on media and entertainment community engagement. I'm excited to be bringing you a different type of content that you might not be used to seeing on the Autodesk channel and learning channels, but I'm hopeful that it's a welcome change of pace. It's not going to disrupt any of the other learning content that you're used to, though. While this community stream is around the time of the GDC Game Developer Conference, the topics we'll be focusing on here are absolutely meant for a wider 3D audience as well. I'm really happy to be showing you some fun stuff that the area and Autodesk teams have been working on lately. Later on, we'll be joined by Shayleen, Del, and Lucy as they chat about the importance of diverse representation in video games, as well as showing off some tools of their trade. Following that, David Segal from the Exceptional Minds program will be sharing with us how their organization is helping creatives on the autism spectrum obtain the skills and confidence to get into the games and VFX industries. Before we welcome those guests, though, I wanted to take a little bit of time and talk about some exciting work that I've personally been focusing on for the past 8 months, and the wider team that I work with has been working on for at least a couple years. So first off, I wanted to share the Autodesk Media Entertainment team's new website, which just launched earlier this month. A new, fresh take on our website area. Historically, and now more than ever, Area has been a community-driven space for everyone to come spend time, look at the gallery, contribute to it, read various industry news, write their own, and obviously participate in the learning content through the many tutorial libraries the community has created. So now, for the first time, Area will be accessible through iOS and Android apps, as well as, of course, the traditional browser website. With expanded profile functions and full community groups and feeds, the Area team can't wait to see you there, and neither can I. On that same note of empowering creatives and creators, for the past few years, Autodesk has been sponsoring a variety of YouTube and content creators to help bring you free, accessible learning content with our influencer program. Folks like Eloy Indalus-Fula, Harvey Newman, Academic Phoenix Plus, JL Musi, Aramis 3D, and so many more have helped the community grow alongside the Autodesk software. I am personally really passionate about making sure communities get free, accessible learning content, and I can't wait to help bring you more. So please, if you have some time, take a look at some of their amazing tutorials on their various channels. So with that, I'd first like to welcome Shayleen, Del, and Lucy to share with us some of their thoughts on the importance of diversity in character design within video games, and what we can all do as creatives to push our skills and think about the societal impact and implications of a more diverse game industry.
Hello everyone, my name is Shayleen and I am a 3D character artist living and working in London. I have been working for roughly 6 years, freelancing for 4, and I am particularly passionate about this topic because I've often gone to talks where people have spoken about how much it means to them to see themselves in a game or a piece of media and have that really like touch them and feel connected with it. So that for me is something I've always wanted to create for people. And I get to do that a lot in my own personal work.
Yeah, hi, my name is Del Walker. So I've been character artist in the games industry for 11 years. I'm currently a principal character artist at the studio Respawn, based in LA. Yeah, so most of my experience working in the video games industry has been working on what I would consider very middleware or even shovelware games at the start of my career, making background characters and helping out where I can and progressing into currently AAA. And much of my experience has been a case of working throughout different genres too and different art styles, which has influenced a lot of my personal work, but also has influenced me into going to places I would never have imagined, so.
Hi everyone, my name is Kyriakidou. People call me Lucy. I am a freelance character designer and now art director. I've been in games for over a decade now. Worked in a lot of different games and projects. And I got into games because I grew up with games, playing games, and I was craved to see myself in media that I consumed. So diversity is something I'm really passionate about, like on a personal level, because I want everyone to see themselves in what they play and like feel like the hero and like they could be the hero. But on a professional level as well, I just think we kind of owe it to be more respectful to our target audience and more representative, and show different ways to portray what we're trying to say in the games that we create.
So the first thing we want to talk about is keeping things like particularly constructive, so people can actually learn and grow and take what we're saying into practice. When you're building a team, why is it so important, and what are the advantages that having diversity has on your final result or like your final experience?
Yeah, so it's a little easier if you can use examples to show where it's gone wrong. Like I always like to use the example of situations where something seemingly successful actually has a little bit of an insidious undertone because you're getting things wrong, but you're not necessarily seeing the outcome or the reason behind it. I always use the example of the TV show Friends, based in New York. I love the television show Friends, but for 9 seasons, you might not really even notice that a city which is meant to have 30 to 35% Black people and 20% Latino people, none of those people are represented in the show. So it's just a very good example of a misrepresentation of a city. And a lot of the time games can get that a bit wrong too, where you're misrepresenting what the world actually looks like. And that's something that's very easy to do by just trying to address biases you never really considered before, and getting people with differing views and different backgrounds to help collaborate on the project, and they'll automatically correct biases, whether that's gender, race, or age, or sexuality. It will solve itself. And so that's a lot of the positive impacts that you can get from having more diversity in your games. Like, your experience is not only richer and better, it's actually a bit more accurate too, and you can get a lot more natural, organic, and healthier visual storytelling just from having those people around to help contribute to the project at hand.
So something that a lot of people ask is like how to overcome challenges. Like, what have you found to be the most common challenges that you faced when developing a project? And I would have to say, for me personally, because I've worked on being a freelancer, I work on so many so often and work with so many different types of people. Personally, I found that one of the more difficult aspects of having the diversity talk with clients or colleagues or even like people in my personal life is how personal that conversation can feel, which instantly makes it more of like a stickier place to be. Other people can feel personally challenged or as if they're being criticized as a human being if you want to openly discuss like any concepts, designs, or storytelling in a game. And I think what's super important for those people is, yeah, it can feel that way, but it's important for you to understand that it isn't a personal attack, and to almost assess those feelings that you're having. You can always ask for like time away and be like, can we talk about this in like 5-10 minutes, maybe in an hour? But it isn't a personal discussion. And difficult talks like this allow people to feel more comfortable to talk about like and question our own personal biases when creating anything. It doesn't have to be games, it can be any type of media or like something you're doing in your own time. As a freelancer, I don't typically get any creative control or a say in what I create for clients, but there have been instances where I've been able to talk more openly with them about my own beliefs and what I want to push in a project. And those projects are out there and those people are there. I think often what they face is the fear of failure of trying. So having someone who's able to discuss those things with them can make them feel more comfortable to challenge themselves and do something that they're not typically used to. I think the biggest advice I can give is when broaching this topic, it is to focus on solutions rather than just pointing out everything that they've done wrong, which can make it feel personal. If you're able to offer a solution, people are far more willing to listen and to take in that criticism.
Yeah, I want to add to that is also that thing that I feel like we sometimes don't push enough, like we kind of settle, like even with people, because same, like I'm a freelancer, and while I have been lucky to have been like to be like in the pre-production stage where like character designs happen, it's sometimes difficult, and like it's easy for people to settle. It's like, we've done good, this is a diverse cast. So say they're like, oh yeah, let's put like a woman of color in there, and you're like, okay, what if we made her an older woman of color? What if we give her like body hair? What if she had no hair? Like I just think that there's always that little bit more that is kind of like a stretch to try and sell to people. So yeah, I think it's
pushing
really
the
easy to settle.
boundary.
Yeah, there's always a limit to that boundary, feels like.
So how can we work within, keeping that in mind, like how can we work within technical limitations on a project, and what impact does that have on your choices?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Limitations are always a thing in game development, especially by any project. And it's usually time or like budget and like technical things, or like time again. But I think the issue kind of stems from like going on autopilot when we start with like you just get like, oh, this is the time I have, this is the money I have, and you just like starting to get into this process without kind of stopping and thinking. And I feel like where that kind of becomes a problem is because people go back to like their own like biases and like their defaults, and defaults is something I talk a lot about with people. It's another word for like personal bias, but like what you think this, or like what you keep seeing somebody looks like a character should look like. And I think we need to start from the beginning. You kind of need to challenge yourself from step one and really put this conversation first as you're starting a project. Of course, there are things like, like practical things like, reusability. I've been asked before, it's like, okay, but we need to like how to create like diversity when we need to reuse models. And I just think people tend to think of diversity in very small kind of, either like the big important things like racial diversity, cultural. And I just feel like you need to account for those from the beginning. Like maybe don't make your reusable asset like this white muscly man. Like that's not really representative. And think of small ways to include diversity, like from the models themselves, like things like skin conditions you don't see a lot of, or like I mentioned earlier, things like body hair, or different maybe body traits, like disabilities, things like that. And kind of like normalize things that we don't really see in media, and like widen people's definition of what it's like to be beautiful, strong, whatever, a hero. There's also a lot to be said about using the environment. And the project I'm working on at the moment, we kind of, for each area, we're kind of taking inspiration from like not Western architecture. We kind of looked at things that we wouldn't have done unless we did our research. And yeah, I think it's a great way to kind of allow yourself to explore and not put yourself in a box before you even like start the creative process. And then that's the way to really come up with something creative and new.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, they pick a genre and they kind of repeat what's already been done, like fantasy and picking Gothic architecture is such a common thing that's done. Or they'll pick kind of, like German architecture and say that's fantasy, that's what this is. and being able to source from different places and what is their fantasy, what do they define that as being, and going somewhere else, and it just ultimately creates a more unique experience as well. Like if every fantasy game is based on German or Gothic architecture, then every fantasy game is exactly the same.
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of wanted to expand a little bit as well on what Lucy said about using the environment as well. Like, I think sometimes there is the aspects is if you're working on characters that you need to make sure the diversity is in the character art. And you know, being a character artist, I know exactly what that often is like. Sometimes it can just be a decision to have people from different backgrounds or just a variety of different people contributing to the initial idea, even as simply as saying, do you guys have any ideas for hairstyles? Or do you guys have any ideas for clothing? Before the concept phases start, because that brainstorming section can be incredibly enriching for your, not only for your originality, but for a lot of your authenticity. And, you know, it's not often easy to amend or change an idea once it's gone through many steps. But if you can invite everyone from the studio to contribute, you'll often find a lot of rewarding original ideas that are true and authentic to the diversity of the people around you, if they can contribute that early on. And beyond that, if you're talking about aspects like the budget of the game or the limitations, a lot of the limitations that you might consider where you don't have the freedom perhaps to have the true full range spectrum on what you'd like to do with all the characters, that doesn't really stop you from making a decision to add like posters or like pictures of perhaps different types of people throughout the game in the world. That's near free, and it still means a lot and represents things well.
So we're talking a lot about like referencing things not from our own, like, well, not even just from our own cultures. It's, you know, the Western culture, the typical, as Lucy said it, it's like the default. So I think an important question is a lot of people don't know where to start. So where can somebody start when researching or referencing cultures, backgrounds, characteristics, or even like themes that they aren't particularly familiar with?
Yeah, one of the things I think is that there's a step just before this that perhaps isn't considered. So instead of you making a decision that like, okay, we're going to do this, and then we're going to research this thing to influence what we make. The part where you go, we're going to make this, that bit in itself could be a question. Whereas instead of you making a decision to go ahead with the look in your mind, like it could be so open that you're like, we're not 100% set on what the architecture will be. So we're going to make a decision to look at all different types, like just as an initial phase, or we're going to make a decision to look at all different ethnicities for this character, just as an initial phase. Like, so often the question isn't asked in the beginning, it's often catered to things a little bit far along, which is where a lot of the issues come, because you're now trying to bend what Lucy likes to call your default to try and be open afterwards, when you could start open and really bring the studio and the team and everyone to just be like, we just want to hear all your alternatives for all these things. You know, it could go as far as weapon design, or even like down to accents that the characters could be having long before you've found voice actors. And these things can contribute to the character building and the character progression and the character progression of the world at large, you know, and the world building.
I really agree with that. I personally see it as like those things, like that is what the research is for me, like when starting a project. Because like at the end of the day, you need, say you're making a platform and you need a character to jump, that's your character. So what you should be doing is then just be like, okay, how do I dress this like blob that jumps? And then you kind of, that's why I think like with my personally, like my discipline with character design is we need to be really aware of just exploring everything. And And it goes back to something you said earlier about having diversity within the industry. I think that really helps because then all the different voices are there to kind of offer their own perspective on things. And I think that's really, really important.
Yeah, just to touch on that diversity discussion, diversity just means everyone who is not seeing the world in the same way. That could be someone who's just 10 years older than you, 10 years younger than you. They just live in some different part of the country from you. It doesn't necessarily need to be like we need to have a tick box and there is a little bit of an assumption that to have diversity means that you have to find some boxes to tick, when it's just like, no, the whole idea that we're trying to convey is that there are a lot of competent people. Just try and give them a consideration and your project will benefit from it.
Yeah, that's very true. Oh, sorry, Shay.
Oh, I was just agreeing. I think also for me, because I work on very much like an isolated level, I don't have a team. I'm not a part of these discussions in the beginning of a project. I'm handed something, right? So I think a lot for me is also having your research never like be in just one place. Stereotypically, people, especially like when I've met students, they just Google something or they Wikipedia something and they leave it there. And that's the beginning and end of their research. They'll look at, especially artists will look at a picture and think that they understand everything that's in it. Whereas I find it more beneficial for me to not only source from the people themselves, so watching YouTube channels from people sharing their cultures and experiences and backgrounds and interests with other people, hear it from their own mouths, take that in and take that from multiple different sources, but also to not just stop and end with artwork. Like when people just look at games or they just look at movies and say that's their inspiration. I like to look at cosplay and fashion and even doll painting to be able to help further what I know and understand of my own craft. And then I get to hear their perspectives on things and what inspires them and how they've designed something. And I think being really active in a creative, just in creativity in general, really helps to build your own like mental library and your own experience. If you don't have access to that team, then, or like a community, you then have access to everything on the internet that isn't just Google or Wikipedia. And that's what I found myself, seeing how I haven't worked in a team for like 5 years now. But I think the biggest question that a lot of people kind of come up against, or in terms of like more of a combative answer to people asking for this, is why is this important? Is it not just a video game?
Yeah, I love this question. It's like one of my favorite questions. Especially because it's so easy to answer now in the world we live in, whereby so much of the content we absorb is media that we opt into. And our society is basically internet-based or media-based, and then humans kind of are catered towards it. Well, I say it outside Western society often is, but I often use the example of Mae Jemison, which she was the first astronaut, the first Black female astronaut in the very early 90s. And the story being that she was like a very, very accomplished engineer and physician, and she had done loads of stuff with chemical engineering and was just basically an incredibly highly polished Black woman who happened to be a fan of the television show Star Trek. And there is a Black female protagonist on there called Uhura. And that was her opt-in to basically say, I really believed that I would love to be an astronaut, but I never allowed myself to think it until I saw just a form of myself doing this in media. And she subsequently applied and beat like something like 750 or 950 other applicants to be chosen to go to space. There's a little bit of a full circle there as well, where, media empowered that person to become the best version of themselves. But if there was a world in which this person wasn't represented, that you're effectively telling that person you don't matter so much subconsciously, or you're telling them these opportunities aren't for you. So you're not actually getting the best out of your society, because you're not allowing them to have the visibility of themselves to know what they're capable of. The best part of that story is that the newest run of Star Trek actually has a black female protagonist who is a captain, and the inspiration came from Mae Jemison, the astronaut. And so it like went completely full circle, where the person who was affected by media is now affecting the media that's being made by the people inspired. And games are the largest industry in the world now. You know, what we're contributing to is like games outsells movies and music combined like threefold, and it has been that way for the last 9 years in a row. So for someone to say diversity or representation doesn't matter in our field, like I'd really ask you to think, like, why do you think it doesn't matter to have a better, more fair representation of people that everyone has access to and everyone absorbs?
Oh. I didn't realize just like how full circle that story was. It's pretty, like, it's the first time I've heard it, so that's like pretty inspiring for me. But yeah, is there anything anybody else would like to say about why this is important, or why they feel like this is important?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I can follow that, but like I always urge people to kind of look at the people in their lives to take inspiration from the characters they create in games, because you have chosen those people to be important to you, and surely you want to take all the positivity and kind of like give it out there and kind of showcase why these people are important, and instead of sticking to this like idealized version of what, you know, a hero looks like, a male looks like, or whatever. Like I think the power of like taking positive traits from the people that you love, that people that are important to you, and create this like association, I think is very strong, and I think we really need to harness it more.
Yeah, I personally feel like it's important because I want to see games say something, and I want them to spread and touch, as silly as it may sound, I want it to touch as many hearts as possible and have people feel, you know, like a deeper connection with what they're interacting with, and not just think, oh, it's another one of these, you know. And to hear people say, I'm so excited because I saw this in a game and I've never seen this before, and this has really touched me and moved me, and have people interact with that should be a driving force. You know, if people aren't reacting to your game or don't have any kind of like connection with it, I don't think that not that you haven't succeeded, I don't think you've done everything that you can if people aren't connecting with what you've made. And I think that we've been seeing the same stories and same people in games especially, but like in media in general, over and over and over again. I just want to see something new that can touch more people's hearts than what we can with what we have currently. I'm a sap that way. I'm a romantic that way. But yeah, thank you so much to Lucy and Del, and thank you to Autodesk for hosting us and what is essentially a very difficult topic to cover, but a very important one. And thank you so much to everybody for watching.
Thank you, everyone.
So thankful for your time and expertise. The three of you are a boon to the community, so thanks for contributing to these talks. Next, we are joined by David Segal, the Executive Director of Exceptional Minds, an organization focused on training creatives on the autism spectrum for the game and VFX industries. So let's welcome Exceptional Minds crew. I'm joined with Exceptional Minds. Exceptional Minds is a nonprofit academy and studio preparing young adults on the autism spectrum for careers in the entertainment industry. They've been breaking down barriers and advocating for talented artists for about 10 years. We'll hear more from the team in a minute, but first, here's a quick video about kind of the stuff they've been working on lately.
At Exceptional Minds, we're very aware of the fact there are too many young adults with autism that are unemployed. There's nothing that these young adults can't do, and they keep proving it time and time again.
My favorite thing about Exceptional Minds, I've been able to grow so much, started seeing more clarity in my art style.
The environment that we're given here is encouraging that creativity, the talent within us.
This was where I was going to get the necessary skills to do what I wanted to do.
It's really important that they understand the finer points of how to work within an office and how to work within a business structure.
I realized my true calling. I need to be an animator.
The ultimate goal is to help our students actually work in the entertainment industry and have meaningful careers as artists and technicians.
They're feeling good about what they do and what they can do in the future.
I like film, I like animation, learned more about visual effects, found out that I'm good at it, and now I do it full time.
It has been amazing just discovering what I'm good at. We have answers that we didn't have before. Friendships that we didn't have before. The community is very important. I've always felt like an outsider. I feel so much less alone than I used to.
They know that they are making progress towards an achievable goal, not just a job, but a career path.
Some of our graduates have gone on to work for Nickelodeon, Marvel,
multiple Star Wars films,
A job at Fox and at Sony,
Cartoon Network,
Sesame Street Workshop, being given the opportunity to write and direct for them.
So while people with autism might learn differently, they bring incredible skills to bear. We always say at Exceptional Minds that what makes you different makes you extraordinary.
There are people who do get it and people who just don't get it. Stick with the people who do get it. They're the ones who will help you be your best self.
And now we're going to speak with some of the staff and students at Exceptional Minds. So over to you, Randy.
Hi, I'm Randy Derrickshani. I'm one of the faculty at Exceptional Minds. I'm the head of 3D, and I've been here for about 8 years. Exceptional Minds is mainly focused on working with individuals with autism or on the spectrum, teaching visual effects, 2D and 3D animation. We've been gearing up with Autodesk on creating a broader educational system and curriculum for our 3D department, because we want to merge into gaming and doing motion graphics along with the traditional 3D.
Yes, thank you, Hagen, and thank you, Randy. My name is Scotty Peterson. I'm actually only in my 5th month at Exceptional Minds. It's been amazing so far, really happy. I'm in charge of running the studio, and basically what we do is we have three disciplines. We run 2D animation and art. We have VFX group, and we also have a newly spun up 3D group, which is exciting to talk to you here today about that. And we employ graduates. We have currently 26 graduates working in our studio in a part-time or full-time capacity.
That's incredible. Well, speaking of students, I'd like to give Aaron and Corey an opportunity to introduce themselves.
Hi, my name's Aaron Trost. I'm currently a second-year student here at Exceptional Minds with an emphasis in animation.
Hi, I'm Corey Francisco. I am a second year at Exceptional Minds with an emphasis in animation.
So happy you all are taking the time out of your day to chat with me. I guess this first question is geared towards Randy. Would you tell us a little bit more about the Exceptional Minds mission, a general overview of the programs you offer?
Specifically for my department, we have we teach 3D in all 3 of the years here. The first year they get a maybe 10 weeks of like an intro to 3D, and typically we'll introduce them to Maya. And last year we actually gave them an introduction to Unreal. The second year is mainly focused in the first semester on motion graphics in 3D and how that pipeline works. And the second and third semester of the year is focused mainly on Maya and the workflow that you might use for gaming or like a professional pipeline, meaning Maya, ZBrush, Substance Painter, back to Maya, so mainly Maya, but using the other programs for like texturing and stuff like that. And then the third year, the students get to sort of create their own curriculum in a sense, wherever they specialize or their interests are. This year, and every year it's different in the third year. This year we have students that are more interested in the VFX side of things. So we're teaching like cameras and projections and set extensions and doing 3D tracking and lighting and look dev and, doing AOVs and EXRs and things like that. So it's pretty varied what we do. I meant to say that the second year, they focus on a project over a 2-month or a 2-semester period. They get to basically build a game character that fits into a game, and it's not specifically for them to put into a game. It's just as a vehicle for, creativity. It's a robot fighting game, and they get to do all aspects. It's sort of like a survey. They get to design it, model it, texture. They take it into ZBrush, take it into Substance. They do the UVs, rigging, and then animating. So it's they get a pretty robust second year.
That's awesome. And it sounds really holistic. So I'm impressed. I'm actually a little bit jealous myself, because reflecting on my education.
We have to
There you go.
customize it, especially in the third year, to people's desires, because it is a small school. And if you're not interested in animating, or you don't have, the foundation skill sets, we have to sort of pivot and focus more on what is something that would help your career and where you want to go.
Well, testament to you as an educator, because if you're reflecting on the experience that you're providing, I think that that's a huge sign that you're doing something right? Yeah, I'm really interested in hearing a little bit more about the studio side, the tools that are used on the studio. So Scotty, do you want to fill us in on kind of how that came to be and where it's going lately?
Absolutely, thank you. And thanks, Randy. It's a perfect segue, because everything that Randy mentioned is something that we're starting to bring into the studio. We didn't really have that before last year, honestly. Our 3D division is actually newly spun up. I don't know how many months we've been in the studio, but before my time, but not much. So Randy mentioned basically everything that we're kind of doing in the studio as well. We are actually using the 3D modeling skills in Maya. We actually are texturing as well, building characters, building worlds, and also bringing them into game engines like Unreal and Unity. Basically, they're making mini games right now, but we're also preparing for a job. We're preparing for a real world job from one of the major studios. It'll be the first time ever that the 3D group is going to work on a paid job. So I'm really excited about that. And that should happen any month. Anytime this month. It's almost end of February, but anytime in the next couple of weeks.
I can't wait. So I want to hear from the students, though. I know I have a few questions for both Aaron and Corey, so I'll just ask one of the questions and then give you both an opportunity to answer that. What got you interested in 3D in the first place?
So when I started 3D, I guess I didn't know next to anything about how, what went into 3D, or how you got from just nothing to these fully finished rendered 3D projects. And pretty much I was always doing 2D, and 3D was something I was eventually going to be getting into as part of the curriculum. But once I started modeling in Maya, I feel like it just felt very natural and intuitive to me. And I was really just liking that I was able to make these cool things out of what was basically just cubes and stuff like that.
For what got me into 3D, it was mainly through video games that I've played both as a child and even currently. I like to explore the environments that were in there, whether it be simplistic or extremely detailed, like huge skyboxes, open world, stuff like that. And originally, I wanted to go into the more concept art and stuff like that, character design. And when I first got into Exceptional Minds and did the intro to 3D classes, I found that I was having fun and picking up wells, and so I looked to expand that job pool to concept art, along with anything in 3D, whether that be when we learn it, rigging, modeling, or even something we're learning in a workshop after school, blocking out a level or environment.
Yeah, every time I play Skyrim, I've been playing Skyrim for the 8 millionth time now, and every time it just reinvigorates my love for 3D. So I'm just I want to get into 3ds Max, or I want to get into Maya right now. So I can totally relate. Along those same lines, Corey, what projects have you been using Maya for recently?
For projects, it's mainly been for school projects. First one being also a robot, coincidentally. We weren't rigging it like with like the bone structure stuff that you would see in a 3D modeling program, but more of just like parenting it and then just moving it individually, like with keyframes and stuff like that. And then the next project being the commercial project we did for intermediate 3D this year. And for me, I did all of that in 3D because I thought it'd be fun, and I didn't really like the other, like the motion graphics part of it. Like I found that a little bit difficult for me. So doing it all in 3D seemed easier for me. And then where I'm also using 3D in an environment design workshop that goes on after school.
Can't wait to hear more about that. I really liked creating environments in 3D. Folks are always looking for environment artists out there. So Aaron, what are some recent projects that you're working on in 3D? You want to catch us up?
Yeah, I think a lot of the projects that I've worked on in 3D in recent times have been pretty much a lot of the same assignments and such that Corey had already mentioned, like the initial robot, in which we didn't exactly use like any of the like actual rigging tools for, just kind of beginners stuff going on with it. And then the current robots that we're doing now, including like prop design for them and everything. And then there was the fake ad project, or ad for a fake product project, that we did like in fall of last year, in which we had to come up with a fake product, but then like actually model and like dissect the anatomy of it using Maya. So that was something that was very fun to do. And then actually on my own time, I did kind of find like an already rigged little character model for like educational purposes, and I messed with some kind of facial animation on that one. It had like a whole like toolkit and everything. And I feel like I enjoyed that a lot, and I got some cool stuff out of it.
Sounds super cool. I guess I'm going to go off script just a little bit and ask Randy the same kind of question. Like, I'm interested to hear about your reflection on the curriculum right now, and kind of how that curriculum has evolved over the years and where you see it going, I guess.
When I first started working, students weren't really that interested in 3D. And mostly what I realized is I thought, oh, they're just all obsessed with cartoons. All that, these young guys, they love their cartoons, you know? And what I realized, it wasn't that, it's just they just didn't know what it was. You know, they didn't have that, even though, you know, they've seen, you know, we've all seen Pixar shows, and once I started sort of educating them and talking about where in the cartoons that you love is there 3D and how it's used, and trying to bring it into a young person's view. So that's kind of where it began, is just really education and showing them and helping them and doing projects that would get them excited about 3D. Because, you know, a lot of the people that came to Exceptional Minds, it was known as a 2D school. We taught 2D, you know, with animate and, you know, drawing and stuff. And I had to sway the masses, you know, and be very persuasive and show all these. So I was really trying to be really creative with some of the projects that I did, so that people could do it, go, this is fun. And a couple of the projects that turned out that we use more often is this product one that they're talking about. It was an assignment where they had to create a project and then design a commercial around it. And some of the products are just hilarious. Some of them are quite serious. Corey did one on a ring. He called it the one ring. And you know, of course, lots of lines about the one ring that does everything, rules them all, that kind of thing. And then Aaron did one on a voice, almost like a voice birthday card that screams at you. It's like a voice pop, that's what it was. So some of them are really funny and really fun, and they could really explore a lot of it. Like Corey did a lot of his in Maya, where Aaron did his in, he used 2D drawing and did some little GIFs and stuff and brought them into Maya, almost like South Park, you know, on little cards. And then he had the 3D stuck in there. So I tried to get projects where they could bring in what they love, whether it's 2D, whether it's visual effects, and we had some students that were green screening themselves and animating themselves with their products. And so just giving them a lot of freedom to bring 3D into what they love. And then once they get that taste, then I can put the hammer down and say, it's all 3D. And that's what they're in right now. This next, until June, they're trapped. They're in 3D, but I think by then I've won them, Some of them, don't love it all, but like these two guys, they both seem to enjoy a lot of the aspects of it, because Maya can be technical. And for a very traditional artist, it's a stretch sometimes for them to, go across that, that bridge. Some do, like Aaron's a pretty good traditional artist. So is Corey. They both are. And they both have made that, that they like the technical part too.
Yeah, it sounds like you are doing a great job with all the students and making it a little bit more approachable, because I do remember, my first classes in 3D, and it did feel a little bit unapproachable and technical, and didn't know where to start. But breaking down those walls and really making it more approachable and achievable is really important. Corey, do you have any affinity for any specific tools in 3D or Maya in particular?
For tools, I still I like both, really, both traditional art, hand drawing things, along with the whole creating a model, whether that be for a robot or a prop, like from scratch. Like I really enjoy doing that. And I can see my career path being kind of a mix between the two, whether a job calls for I need 3D knowledge, which I hope to expand upon, or it involves more 2D art, which I hope to also expand upon and know more. So it's really, I hope to have a balance between two of them, or even like a job that I can incorporate both with, like a prop design, whether that be I draw the model on paper from scratch and then model it in Maya.
Cool. Thanks for answering that question. I guess my next question is for Scotty. Do you want to tell us about some of the kind of more recent work that the studio has been doing and producing over the past couple of years?
Sure. Yeah. Do you like me to focus exclusively on 3D, or would you like me to kind of spread out what we've been doing across all the disciplines?
Yeah, whatever you got.
Anything, whatever I got. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I am excited that Randy was able to persuade the masses that 3D was important for the Academy, because that's where I come from as well. I have a gaming background and worked in 3D and film as well. And then I worked for Unity. So having a 3D program was really important to me. Knowing that they had just started one, are going to build on it, was one of the reasons I actually joined the organization. So super exciting on that. As far as 2D projects go, we do a ton, honestly, year round. Most of them are animation projects. Some of them have a little hybrid of live action with some rotoscoping and animation. Sesame Street comes to mind. If you've seen that, there's award-winning short that we did last year with them. We also do the asset creation, just like static assets for shows potentially. We're dipping into the GFX world very soon, I think, with one of our potential partners. And then also, concept art. We have so many amazing artists that they can just create some amazing concepts, whether it's for just a character in a new short or a game or whatever. We have that potential too, and I want to kind of bring that into the studio as well. For the VFX group, we do a lot of rotoscoping, tracking, wire removal, beauty shots, kind of touching up people's faces on screen, etc. And then, of course, we have a credits and titles group within the VFX group as well. So we do a lot of the Marvel credits, which is amazing. Almost all of their shows actually are done by us in the credits side of things. And then 3D, I mentioned we haven't got a paid job yet because it's so new, but we're just about to. Super exciting. I can't wait to tell you. I know you're excited as much as I am. Can't wait to bring that to the table and actually announce it. And then again, I mentioned the team's kind of doing mini games. They're making their own games right now, starting from creating a character, modeling and rigging, and then textures. They're also building environments and world building in Engine, and they're making their own games. And some of it actually has been shown inside our walls. Super exciting. I think the 3D group is really the ceiling is super high for this group over time. And it's great to see Aaron and Corey here, because when we helped with your branding, which you guys did recently, I honestly didn't know that you were part of the 3D group. Now I'm super excited, because hopefully in the near future, when you graduate, I'll have jobs for both of you. That'll be amazing.
Thanks for giving us some more insight into the studio. It sounds like super well-rounded group of folks, and yeah, that's so exciting. Well, I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I really want to thank you all for taking the time out of your day, giving us some insight into what y'all are doing at Exceptional Minds. It's super cool, super interesting, and super powerful. We are so happy to have been able to contribute to the Exceptional Minds cause in a small way. And the 3D communities at large are clearly made better by the vital work that they do. With that, I would like to wrap up the Autodesk Community Talks. So thanks everyone that helped enable this to happen, and thank you all for contributing and joining us. We wish you all the best in 2022 and beyond. Hang in there, we got this. And we at Autodesk hope to see you on the new area groups in the coming months. Thanks everyone.